Nile water, the longest river in the world, is the source of lives for millions of people along its course. But it also had been the center of contention among riparian countries since the last 100 years, when treaties and agreements were signed on the use of the Nile. The treaties signed between Egypt and Sudan in 1929 and 1959 had excluded Ethiopia, the very source of the river, and forbidden it not to build any dam along the Blue Nile River or its major source, Lake Tana. The 1902 treaty, which was signed between the colonialists of Egypt, the Great Britain, and Emperor Menelik of Ethiopia, has been the most controversial in the history of the Nile agreements. That treaty was simply imposed on Ethiopia, disregarding its interests from the river. It is also the cause of disputes, which threatens the socio-political and economic dynamics of the basin environment and efforts toward future cooperation. Again, in May 1929, another agreement that excludes Ethiopia was signed between Egypt and Sudan. The agreement allowed Egypt to own 48 billion cubic meters of water and Sudan 4 billion cubic meters of water, ignoring the source of the river, Ethiopia. The agreement also gave the total right to Egypt to monitor the flow in the upstream countries and the right to undertake any project along the river without the consent of other riparian countries. It was another agreement devised mainly to secure interests of Egypt on the Nile by limiting the rights of Sudan and rejecting of those upstream countries. The 1929 agreement became a base for the 1959 agreement, which somehow considered the interest of Sudan, but still disregarded the interest of the source countries. The 1959 agreement was made between Egypt and Sudan, aiming to secure full control and utilization of the Nile water. The agreement allowed the entire water to be shared between the two countries, giving Egypt 55.5 billion cubic meters and Sudan 18.5 billion cubic meters of water from the Nile. Until very recently, none of the treaties and agreements signed on the use of the Nile water benefited Ethiopia or other upstream countries. In 1999, the Comprehensive Framework Agreement, CFA, was signed by 7 riparian countries except Sudan, Egypt, and Democratic Republic of Congo. The Comprehensive Framework Agreement guarantees a fair and equitable use of the Nile River among the riparian countries. The year 2011 saw history change itself in Ethiopia. Following the Comprehensive Framework Agreement, it started utilizing the Nile water for its development. On April 2nd, the late Ethiopian leader Meles Zenawi announced the commencement of a new power project on the Nile River. Ethiopians named this massive power dam in Africa the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. However, the commencement of the massive dam was not free of criticism and contention. Soon after the launching of the project, Egypt and Sudan began to voice against the dam. In 2012, the Ethiopian government, which has genuinely considered the concerns of the two countries, allowed them to form an international panel of experts to assess the impact of the dam.
We told the Egyptians that the dam will not cause any harm on them. If they have any doubt on that, we told them to establish a panel of experts that can assess its impact. Later on, the team of experts was established with people drawn from Egypt, Sudan, Ethiopia, and other countries.
These experts were given the mandate and the terms of reference to explain if the dam is safe enough, the way it is designed and being built. And they were also given the terms of reference if this dam has any negative impact on downstream countries, on Sudan and Egypt.
Then, the international panel of experts resumed its assessment on the Ethiopian dam. After a year of intense assessment, the panel of experts brought promising results about the dam that relieved the worries of the riparian states of Egypt and Sudan.
The question was that Egypt and Sudan were worried about the impact of the dam. So the international panel of experts came up with a result of their 1 year intensive study that the dam is safe and the dam is being built on the basis of internationally accepted standards. And they said that the Ethiopian government has no problem in continuing building of the dam the way it has started, and then in keeping with the chosen standard. On the other hand, they also said that the environmental and socio-economic and hydrological impacts should be further investigated in collaboration of the three countries. And that study is now under preparation.
To implement the recommendations given by the international panel of experts, the three countries again agreed to establish a tripartite technical committee. But the then Islamic regime in Egypt was an obstacle for the committee and was interrupting the negotiation process.
The coming to power of President Al-Sisi gave light to the negotiation on the Renaissance Dam. The Egyptian government agreed the tripartite technical committee to resume its assessment. Egypt also proposed an idea for the establishment of Committee of Foreign Affairs that can help the tripartite technical committee.
Simultaneously, the three countries have continued a series of talks at ministerial levels and heads of states. One important meeting was the 23rd Ordinary Summit of the African Union in Equatorial Guinea, which enabled the Ethiopian Premier Hailemariam Desalegn and Abdel Fattah el-Sisi of Egypt to discuss the issue of mutual cooperation in multiple sectors, including the Renaissance Dam. The 69th General Assembly of the UN at New York was also another important platform that connected the two leaders who agreed to enhance mutual cooperation in various areas. Egypt's President al-Sisi's initial plan to visit Ethiopia was coined there.
President al-Sisi came to power, and it seems that President al-Sisi is interested to continue dialoguing with Ethiopia more positively, and he's interested really to rally the Egyptian public to cooperative mechanism rather than confrontation.
7 months later, the leaders of Egypt, Sudan, and Ethiopia met in Khartoum, Sudan, to sign a historic agreement on the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, which became the headline news on the mainstream media.
ከውሃ አጠቃቀማችን ይሄ መርህ ነው የተፈረመው። እነዚህ መርሆች ዓለም አቀፍ መርሆች ናቸው።
The agreement enables the signatories to equitably benefit from the Nile River. This is a big achievement for the three countries.
The declaration of principles that was signed in Sudan by the leaders of the three countries, Prime Minister Haile Mariam Desalegn, President Omar Hassan al-Bashir, and President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, has included the experiences of major conventions and framework agreements that happened in other countries.
These principles of declaration has a lot of lessons drawn from numerous international transboundary basins that 2 or 3 or more countries building structures in one or another country, sometimes in upstream countries, sometimes in downstream countries, sometimes along the border. So the agreements are so many, and those agreements are always encourage cooperation, and those cooperations are put in several ways, sometimes in framework of understanding, sometimes in fully fledged treaties, sometimes in conventions, sometimes in framework agreements. They are different. But now this declaration of principles has drawn lessons and experiences, but addressed a unique problem and unique question that belong to the Eastern Nile Basin, especially regarding the three countries around the dam Ethiopia is building, known as Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam.
The signing of the agreement benefits the people of the three riparian countries, and all the three countries have become winners.
It is a win-win position to all of them. Win-win is just a phrase, but in actual sense, this is accepted by Sudan, this is accepted by Egypt, this is accepted by Ethiopia, and the basis for accepting is that they are interested to be following these principles in their future relations over the transboundary water resources between them, and especially about the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. That the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam is an Ethiopian dam, and the owner of the dam is Ethiopia, and it is built by Ethiopian funding in Ethiopian territory. But at the same time, Sudan and Egypt should not be worried about this dam, and this dam will not negatively impact on them.
The signing of the agreement creates mutual trust and understanding among the three countries.
This is the era of cooperation. Mutual trustship is the most important issue for the riparian countries. We need cooperation. We opted for cooperation and development. We opted for trusting each other. We need to work on cooperation and how to boost trust among ourselves. It is possible to grow and develop together through cooperation. This will maintain peace and security in our region. On one hand, it will advance the interests of our country. On the other hand, it creates a favorable situation when our member states of Nile Basin Initiative come together and cooperate on the proper utilization of the Nile water.
The principles of declaration, as scholars describe it, protects the sovereignty of the three countries as well as their national interests.
This declaration principles is really interesting. It strongly maintains that every country is sovereign to use the water resources in each country, keeping to equitable and reasonable utilization without substantively harming the other countries. So this principle is kept, and sovereign sovereign authority of each country and territorial integrity of each country to continue their development within their territories is maintained. I mean, that is it's a big international understanding of authority of states.
The agreement is not only the result of a long negotiation process among the three countries, but also something that showed the commitment of their leaders.
If there is a really big issue, that issue can only go up to the heads of state and the heads of government, where they can try to accommodate the difference and resolve the thing. In that sense, any dialogue, any difference over the use of water resources between them does not go to any international court or does not go to any international fora, UN Security Council or International Court of Justice or to any fora. So that again shows the three countries are committed to cooperate, among themselves rather than to externalize, their problem or to bring their case to external bodies which may not help, their mutual accommodation and growing friendship.
After long years of tensions and suspicions, the three countries of the Eastern Nile, Sudan, Egypt, and Ethiopia, made a historic deal that transforms the livelihoods of their people. The deal will definitely ignite their hopes and will pave a way for a bright future.